um, because I'm super curious. Hang on. Sorry, my Google just announces it's 10 a.m. It's time to get water. Um, you bought a Ute. How
Yes.
did you find this particular Ute?
This is a great question. And actually, I don't know if you want to bring it up on screen just so
Sure,
people, if they're watching, they can kind
I
of
can.
see what Ute it is.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
pull it up right now.
do you want me to send you a Twitter link?
I've got it. I've got it. You just sent it in the WhatsApp. So you
Oh,
keep
okay,
going.
cool.
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, so I have been thinking about getting into the D Labs family for a while. D Gods is way out of my price range right now. It's a little bit past where I'd be willing to invest. It's D Gods are about 10 ETH right now, which is about $20,000, and a Ute hovering around two. I ended up getting, and I'll be super transparent about the price. I have no problem. I got it for 2, 3. And the reason why I got this Ute was a couple things. One, it doesn't have like anything that you can see unless you zoom in that is like text wise. I really like that. I don't like when something says like to the moon across the chest or like we are the night or like some shit. I just don't that doesn't do it for me. And then one of the other reasons why I got this Ute was because of the headphones. I may incorporate this into More Than Blockchain as IP and kind of make it a part of More Than Blockchain, the podcast. So I haven't really decided how I'm going to do that, and I actually want to tap into the D Labs community, both D Gods and Utes, and see if anyone else is using it as an IP for a brand, and then kind of see how they're leveraging it. So that's kind of where I wanted to go. It's also a very active community, and in between Utes, which is 15,000 holders, and or 15,000, I should say, NFTs, and D Gods, which is a more classic 10,000, that's 25,000 people. And it's just going to kind of give me reach into a whole different kind of sector of Web3, if you will. But the way I found it, I went on here and I just searched headphones, and then I started to look through.
You
Um,
searched with headphones
yeah, I searched
first.
headphones because I knew I really wanted headphones. That some have the headphones on, some have the headphones up here on like the head, like they're a DJ. Some have the headphones around the neck, like they're just resting. I don't know why this one did it. I don't know. I also feel like I could dress up like this fairly easily. I have a lot of black hoodies. But when I found the Ute, I reached out to the owner who goes by the handle Crypto Toby, and we started talking on Twitter, and then we ended up using a third party portal where basically he puts in my address, and then he puts in the amount that we agreed on, and then asks me basically to approve the transaction. It was really quite cool.
What is
Um,
the
it,
tool?
it's I can actually find it and drop it in the chat because I thought it was actually quite cool. And I'd never used it before, but I asked some people that I trust. I asked B Chills, who's also part of Utes, who's a good friend of mine. I was like, dude, like, what is this? He's like, oh, that's how everyone transfers NFTs if you're not going to do it just like buying it essentially um on OpenSea, right? If you actually want to talk to the person who you're talking, talk to the actual owner, you would use this. And I'm going to drop it in the chat, Grant, if you want to bring it up.
Yep.
Um, it's called what? NF3, NF3X. And basically, this allows people who don't know one another to be able to do a transaction in good faith. It's kind of like,
Interesting.
Grant, if you and I,
Escrowed, essentially, like an
yeah,
escrowed
it's exactly
transaction.
that, Aussie. Yeah, it's kind of like, Grant and I were going to do a boxing, and we're like, all right, we each bet $10 on each other, and we give it to Aussie to hold. That's kind of what this is. It's a trusted third party who's going to just make sure that things happen well. And I had to get ETH, I had to get it off my ledger, I had to put it into my MetaMask. I then had to switch it into Polygon. I then had to go on NF3X. Like, I guess one of the things I'll say is that this is still not an easy process, right?
This is not an easy
It's
process,
not an easy
man.
process. And when I was logging into my ledger, I was putting in like the 8-digit code so you can get in. And I thought I had it right. And I put it in 3 times, but it said it was wrong. So I had to get my seed phrase out,
Oh my
re-get into my
God.
ledger, re-download Ethereum on there, then get the Ethereum off. Then there's a bunch of 2FA, then get it into like, if I actually wrote down all of those steps, it was probably 30 steps total for me to get this Ute. So like, this is
Wow.
not easy to get if you're not going to, I mean, if you don't already have the ETH in your wallet and you want to buy it, not just like bidding on OpenSea, which is something I didn't want to do because the floor is at like 2, and he was asking for 2.5. So I got him down to 2.3. Maybe it would have gone for lower, but this felt like a much better way, and I've been seeing more people kind of just do direct sales of y00ts. So that I actually kind of like that better. And it's off OpenSea. Not that I'm against OpenSea, but we don't lose any fee there. So
Yeah.
that's fun too.
So I think this is kind of interesting because Grant, you were challenging us about the kind of the underlying tech before
Sure.
before the show.
Sure.
So, and you build websites and like you're huge into small business. So my question is a 30 steps too many steps to make a sale?
3 steps is too many.
Yeah. Yeah.
3 steps. If you have to click 3 times to check out, you have lost a huge portion of your traffic. Like if you invest in getting a ton of traffic to your website and they're used to clicking once to view the item and the second time to check out, much more than that, and patience is gone out the window. So yeah, definitely, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And if Aussie, I want to weigh in on this too. I had Brent Craig on my podcast on More Than Blockchain back in May of 2022. He is he's the CEO of Jamaround, which is a Web3 music creator app for creators. I can go into what he's doing at Jamaround, but what he said, which was really interesting, he's a small business guy. He's one of these guys who got funded from A16Z. He's making really big moves in Web3, and I think that everyone will kind of know his name by 2025. One of the things he said about friction and checkout in e-commerce was that every time you have to make a decision, or every time there's like a new click through, or like continue, put in your name, continue, put in your credit card, continue. Are you sure you want this? Yes. He said every time you have one of these kind of like next steps, you lose 20% of people. So
Yes.
if you have 3, then you're losing 60% of people just because they give up or they don't have their credit card or it's not simple. And that's why I think Apple Pay has made things very, very awesome, because you're like, oh, I want this. Like I bought something off Instagram the other day. I'm like, oh, I want to try this out. Done. I double click, I put in my code, I say, yeah, I want this. And it already pre-fills all my stuff and it's done. So until NFTs are that simple, it's going to take a while, at least in the NFT PFP culture that we have, because like even yesterday I had to Google a bunch of stuff because I wasn't sure exactly how to like move the Ethereum.
And you are OG.
I'm OG, but I like the whole ETH to Polygon thing is fucking messy, because like I'll have wrapped ETH in my Ethereum wallet, but then I won't have it in my Polygon wallet, when I switch over to the Matic mainnet. So the whole thing is just crazy. And I still have 0.1 wrapped ETH. I don't know where it is, and I'm trying to figure out how to like get it. I know it's still mine. I just like haven't claimed it. So anyways, there's a whole host of things. And then yesterday, to cancel this out, so I took some from my ledger, and whenever I take anything out of my ledger, I have to replace it plus 10%. That's my rule. So when I took it out, I then went on to Coinbase because now I can't use Binance, and I had to reset up Coinbase because I haven't used it for a year or whatever.
Oh, wow.
So I had to go through that whole step and set up that, and like the 2FA was still good and all that. So the whole thing's a shit show. Crypto is not easy.
I've got a feedback loop later in the conversation about my live event, because I had one whole slide about Web3 marketing and it making its way back to Web2. We talk about that in a second, but several people started raising their questions in the middle of my monologue about crypto. And I was like, let's do this. And I was onboarding, but we'll talk about that in a second, but it was similar to what you're saying. Keep going.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and Aussie, you look like you're ready to hop in. I was just going to say, it's not easy. It's not straightforward. It's not easy. I think it actually is fairly straightforward, but figuring out what buttons and levers you have to push when you have to push them can be stressful. Like when you go from ETH to bridge to Polygon to bring it to your Matic wallet, it takes about 30 to 40 minutes. And during that time, you're just like some transactions on crypto, you're like, what is happening?
Did I lose everything? And it's long enough that you might even be tempted to hit like cancel or undo, but you're just waiting for it to settle,
Yeah. Well, so this is my question. Do we think that this like innumerable number of steps and the forever extension of 2FA is one of the biggest barriers to onboarding more people into crypto? The fact that it takes 30 steps to do a transaction
it's the top.
like that.
It's the top. This is not
top of the list. Yeah.
This is not reputation. This is not degen culture. This is not Gary Gensler. This is not Yellen. It's a UX problem. It's a designer's problem. And design problems are very rarely designer problems. Design problems are fucking developer problems. And by that, I mean this. Developers take pride, hackers take pride in DOS screen and interfaces, that things look like the Matrix. And in crypto culture, how this has transferred into a visual culture, because if you think about hackers, hackers are verbal, they type everything, right? But how we're seeing this like micro subculturally in crypto is in degen tribal bro culture. That's the version. If you take like the hyper masculinity of hackers and they're like, oh, we get all the jargon, you don't, outsider, insider, fuck off, you know? I mean, and it's that sort of feel that is now in crypto from everyone's little corner of the world, which is why I'm excited for you to have a Ute, because I want to hear from what I would consider an A-list project insider. None of us here own any A-lists until now. And we all own projects. We've all done Discord grinding, and that's its own form of UX misery. But like I cannot wait to hear this kind of unfolding revelation as you start to spend more and more time. Yeah, we can reach these founders, but what's the actual inside scoop on the community? That's what I'm curious. In fact, I told someone I was talking to, I watched your Twitter account go up long before you posted in the WhatsApp about it. You bought it, and I said, oh man, he bought this. And I said, oh, look at his Twitter. It's jumping, like the followers you got and the people jumping on your post. And then I thought, oh, this is brilliant. How much does the average person spend in marketing a year to get their follower count increase? To the tune of 10 to 20K, easy for the average small business. You spent 2 ETH, so you spent close to $4,000, right, on this sort of thing. As a marketing play, opening up a micro subculture that you could effectively market to, but really just brag on to the public who doesn't own one still, that's a low barrier to entry, actually, if you think about it as just a marketing spend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be doing episodes about Utes and DGods and DLabs when I can have time to do a little bit more research. But I think that that's going to be exciting because it may. Oh,
He got his cowboy hat. He finally brought the cowboy hat out.
hold on.
Yeah,
Hold
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Let me go find. I got a ball cap sitting around. So
I keep going.
So I think it may be interesting to have, like I said, if in the DLabs community there are 25,000 NFTs. If I can do an episode with Frank, or if I can do an episode just even on DGods, just in like a permissionless apprentice like approach, you know, it may get 1,000 listens. It may get
easily
50
you
new
tag those
subscribers.
boys, they'll be about that life, especially if you're breaking down the culture and you don't say anything disparaging. You don't end up into these dramas that a lot of, you know, the Yuga people are into right now. It's not a bad ad spend. You did that, and I started looking at my credit lines in the company. I'm like, I think I really need to consider that, A, as an investment, but B, as access pass to a community, but C, as a marketing spend. You know, there's something to that.
it would be a very interesting marketing spend. I think if you own a Bored Ape Yacht Club or a Mutant Ape Yacht Club or a Utes, I'd say those are probably your biggest and most effective Twitter marketing spends that you can
DGods,
make.
yeah, just to add in there, because if you're going to do mutants and board, just whether it's Yuga or DLabs, I mean, great. I actually think that's a great idea. I mean, once you're in this community, one of the things that I'm interested to see too is like, what are the other people? Because everyone's doing their own thing, right? Most people in Web3 have a full-time job and then they have their side project.
Yeah,
and they may be trying to sell for both at any one time. Like for me, I'm like, oh, dude, there's a disaster. What's DLabs community doing? Let's give 100,000. Like, I know you got it. And then the other side of it is your personal project, right? So you have a podcast or you have a show or you sell websites. I want to see in the Discord, which I haven't joined and I'm going to join later, if there's a whole thing where it's like, hey, let's lift each other up. You know, hey, I need some help on this animation. Oh, who are the animators? All right, great. Let's link and let's do this. You know, like that to me is the power of community. Coming to parties and doing all that is great. But if like you can sell a product and also buy products from like a very unique, exclusive community where there's already an inherent trust, that to me is like, that's cool. And in that, like you're saying, I spent 2.3, it's about $4,300, $4,400. That will be money well spent if that is my objective and that's something that I'm going to do. Like I think totally if you were like, Grant, my name is Grant. I bought a Ute. I really am into IP. I'm actually creating my own characters, but I'm excited to add this Ute into it. Maybe you find a Ute that's like looks like they're a coder or something. Somehow it says that they're a developer or they're a techie. I'm excited to incorporate this Ute into my IP and into what I'm doing with my small business. Here's my small business, by the way. My biggest challenge, as the challenge is for all of us, is taking people from Web 2 to Web 2.5 to Web 3, because we know it's not easy. And going back to the conversation we were having, it is totally a UX issue, but the story in my head is also that things are getting easier. Like this NFX3 or this NF3X, the website that we just talked about, where I was able to buy the Ute from this guy who I do not know, who I've never met. It could be a pseudonymous name. I don't know if his name's Toby. The story in my head is that didn't exist in 2017, right?
Oh,
when people
no.
were
No,
trying.
no,
So
no.
like, it is getting easier. I know that we say it's bad, and I think that that's accurate, but it is getting easier. I mean, Grant, you talk about back in 2011, 2012, 2013, when you were getting into Bitcoin and just how crazy it was, right?
It was,
like,
forget about it.
Coinbase came out in 2014. And I think that's something maybe we want to call out and maybe shift into, but like in every bear market, great things happen. Great companies are created, and Coinbase was one of them in 2014.
That's true.
And in 2018, 2019, I remember seeing a list and it was like all these great things I think Binance, I forget when Binance was founded. I know it was a little bit earlier than that, but all that's to say,
it was in a bear market too. They've survived at least 2 bear markets, is my understanding.
they've done 2 bear markets. So I think it was like 2016, 2015. But the point is, I feel like maybe we should talk about some of the projects we're seeing now that are being built in bear markets.
I just want to flag something, just because we're talking about barrier to entry. And just the last episode and a couple episodes ago, we were talking about BlackRock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, in the last 30 minutes, hour, the SEC has said that the current spot Bitcoin filings are inadequate.
They're recanting?
They're saying that they aren't adequate. So anyone that's filed for a spot Bitcoin ETF right now, including BlackRock and Fidelity, the SEC is not happy with them.
They haven't approved.
They haven't
filed,
approved,
but not approved.
they've been filed and they haven't been approved. And the SEC is now saying these applications are inadequate, that they aren't meeting the standards of rigor that the SEC wants.
Well, that's great, because then they're just going to go back, fix the rigor, whatever that means, which is a cop out of saying we're going to kick this down the can. And then they're going to come back and put more pressure. And this is different from Brian Armstrong and Coinbase. This is BlackRock, right? Like if the SEC doesn't wise up, there will be issues. Like this is actually the unstoppable force hitting the immovable object, which is Gary Gensler and BlackRock. And guess who wins there? Gary Gensler doesn't win. Right.
This is like going against the Clinton Foundation. Like, what are you talking about, bro?
Some of the reports are even saying they straight up rejected the applications.
What? Dude, someone is going to this is not a threat. Someone is going to harm this person. Like, at some point.
There's no way he lasts another 6 months. I will eat my words. Eat my words. If he's there in 2024, I will be surprised.
So
I cannot believe this guy. So in the last 30 minutes, there is no spot Bitcoin ETF that has been approved.
Yep. They've all, at least the BlackRock one has been straight up rejected, according to reports from the Wall Street Journal. And
let's be clear, it's a spot ETFs. There are other Bitcoin ETFs.
Futures ETFs. And
futures.
There's even a leveraged futures ETF. But the spot ETF filed by BlackRock has been rejected. Wow. Everyone was lauding how this is the ETF that will pass all ETFs.
Oh, it still will be. It still will be.
So
yeah,
it's now been straight up rejected. I love how, like, we don't talk price. We don't love talking about price, but Bitcoin's already fallen. It fell 1.5K in the 30 minutes since it's announced. It seems to be stabilizing right now.
What? Talk to me about where it was and where it fell to. I just looked at the price.
Right.
Bitcoin was at 31,100. It fell to 29.5, and it's now bouncing,
Back.
sitting around like 30,200.
So I that is interesting news. And whoever, the team that you hire, like BlackRock may not have an internal team that does this. They may hire some like crypto whatever under NDNA to come in and just figure this out and then file, right? And I say that because I used to work for a company that would literally do that for private companies for broadband and telecom stuff. And I would love to be in that room. But one of the things I would just want to shout out and remind people of, and this may be something that G'day Crypto, Sean Clark and I talk about because we talked about it on our call the other day. This is an analogy, right? When you think back to high school, tell me about the drama that happened daily. You can't. What you can tell me is that you graduated, maybe you played a sport, maybe you were in the band, maybe you got your heart broken, maybe you got drunk at a party. You're going to remember 4 or 5 things. That is what I want people to take away because this ETF will go through. It's not an if, it's a when, in my opinion, just because of how big BlackRock is. And honestly, I think they run the world.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I wanted to say about crypto Twitter. We've talked about this a lot off mic. Most of the shit is just noise. It is all noise. And I'm really excited for us to even in 6 months, be like, do we even remember what we said that day? No.
Okay, most of the time we don't remember what we said that day on
I don't
Tuesday
remember
when we're talking about.
I don't even know what this episode's about.
Yeah, exactly. I just felt like it was, we were talking about mass adoption and UI UX and how, and previous episodes have been talked about how BlackRock is kind of like that gateway to mass adoption with their ETF, and now to see it all of a sudden not happening is kind of interesting.
It's not okay. It's not happening.
It's not happening as quickly as everyone thought because it's now been rejected. They've got to go back and work on their application. They've got to refile. There's a whole bunch. There's more steps again.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, and this leads somewhat ties into a question I wanted to ask you boys because, I mentioned Jeff of Laughing Otter. I mentioned his post, and I don't have to drag that on, but he was talking, and it was refreshing to hear someone in crypto say, hey, I just spent the whole day talking to founders, and not once did someone mention floor price or profit margins or NFT flips. They were all builders. And it got me thinking, a lot of people want to work in Web3, but we're looking for indications that something gets. There he goes, Raj, my favorite 3 amigos. What's up, man? How you doing, Roger?
I assume since Roger lives in Mexico, aka Texas, he just has like a 10-gallon hat on right
He's got to
now.
have his own. It's not a sombrero. He has a 10-galloner. Yeah. I got this one in San Antonio.
Did you?
Yeah. I had it custom made.
Got his own custom
flex
made
a
hat.
little.
You might have a Ute, but
it's a 101.
But this is my question. We do have people like Roger. Roger knows his career in the Web3 space. Web3, not Web3. I mean, Li-Fi is its own thing, right?
Yeah.
George Pate knows what he's doing with Bitcoin mining. Basically, what's building is these gentlemen can speak to their careers in crypto and Web3. And when we talk about founders aren't just floundering. They're founding something, and they kind of know what they're doing. How would you guys, when someone asks what you're doing with Web3 and crypto, what is the career you point to? This is my career that I'm building in this space. This is my title.
Creation. I'm a content creator. I talk about crypto. I'm a crypto analyst regarding economic and financial news and the impacts of short-term events. I talk about crypto. That's what I do.
Sure.
Crypto philanthropy. I think that's where my lane is. And more than blockchain, not crypto bros, allows me to kind of keep my ear to the grindstone. And not more than blockchain, especially, is allowing me to create partnerships and reach out and just have conversations with people. And, I've had 50, 60 guests now from all over the world. And it's pretty awesome. Like literally from every continent, I think, except Antarctica. So that's kind of where I am. I mean, I think it's using blockchain for good, whether that comes in the form of giving money to an organization like Mercy Corps, which is doing great work around the world,
Yeah.
whether that is using blockchain to track carbon credits in a better way,
Yeah.
whether that is what Roger Williams is doing by using blockchain to create a new network of communication that is different from the one that we currently have that we call Wi-Fi. For me, it's like leveraging blockchain to do something better than the way we already do it to help more people. Even if it's just one more person, well, then that's an improvement. So I think that's the space I'm in.
I like that. Blockchain for good, or Wi-Fi. Do you feel like you have a grasp of blockchain, or are you saying Web3 decentralization? Like, do you actually work in blockchain?
No, I mean, I've never really even touched code, but I don't think we need to, like, I don't think you need to do that. Like, like we all use the internet every day. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, but you
Like,
don't call it Ethernet cable. You call it the internet. It's the abstracted version. I wonder
sure.
what the abstracted version is.
It's
Decentralized
Web3.
tools. What do you say, Aussie?
It's Web3.
I mean,
Web3 or digital assets.
digital assets, Web3. I mean, yeah, these are all names for kind of the same thing. Because I don't use decentralization anymore because I don't think anything is. Not
I
even
agree.
the only thing is Bitcoin. That's the only thing that I could even start to make an argument with. Everything
Yeah.
else I think is far too centralized. If it has a CEO, I can't even start that conversation.
If it has a CEO,
So yeah, I don't know, but I think blockchain for good. I think just using tech for good. Like, I think the other thing
technology for
about
good.
tech for good is that like tech can be the simplest thing. Tech could be like a mosquito net in a malaria infested area of the world, right? Like that's
Mm,
tech. Okay,
yeah.
you're using something to get a better outcome. Tech could be a pencil. Like it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be a laptop. It doesn't have to be all of these things. So, yeah.
Mhm. Roger says, not gonna lie, blockchain has so many worlds. Yes, he could be saying worlds, but he could also be saying so many words. Like there's a lot of ways we refer to this thing. And this to me, linguistic UX problems
Mm.
is to me paralleling these 30 steps you had to go through to buy your ute. And Roger, if you missed it, let me pull it up over here. Our boy bought, oh, is that it? No. Uh, did I browse away? Oh shit, I browsed away. Here, it's right here.
Oh, shit.
There we go. Roger, if you missed it, Jarrett Big Daddy here joined the D Labs family. And so it got us talking a little bit about how many steps it took to finally buy this thing and how many steps it takes to load it on my screen, which was about 30 steps and major UX problems there. And I do think it's the problem, but it's also how we talk about it, because I don't think we're clear on what we're talking about when even we talk about it and we know what we're doing. It took you 30 steps, and that's not ignorance. You know what you're doing, and that's just the mechanism took that much. Do we see this getting better, or is it just going to get absorbed?
It will slowly get better. I think it's just hard to see exactly when that might happen. I feel pretty strongly that we are slowly going to bring in developers that are used to actually building things that are usable, that aren't just straight function. We're going to have businesses that are going to be building Web3 applications that are not so cash strapped that they're literally building the leanest thing possible.
Mm.
Yeah, I think right now people are barely building frameworks. Like if we're thinking about a building as an analogy, they're barely getting the the skeleton up. We're not even doing they're barely getting the rebar and concrete up. If this is building in like Guatemala, that's where I go to because that's where I built for a couple of years. We're not talking about the carpet. We're not talking about the paint colors. We're not bringing in an interior designer. We're just trying to get MVPs to get in front of VCs to get a little bit of money to push things forward. I think it's a really tough time right now in the market for builders. I think the money is really tight, especially with what's happened with the SEC. I was speaking with someone the other day, and I'm really blanking on who exactly I had this conversation with. Oh, there's Scott from Shamory, who has children's books and a card game about Bitcoin, which everyone should check out. he was just saying he can literally, and I think I've said this to you guys off mic, but he can literally track his sales, his e-commerce sales with the Bitcoin price. So I think we are in a gully. I think we're
You
at the
did mention
bottom
this.
ish right now. I think we'll be between 25 to 35 for the next 6 months. Maybe we crack 40 as we get into 2024 and people know what the halving is. And, you know, we get into the new calendar and people are ready to do different things with their money. They have a new budget. Things are different. I think Gary Gensler will be out, etc. But the point is, I think right now for builders, it's not a certain time. I was talking with Alicia Mall from GivePack. GivePack is kind of like a competitor to the Giving Block. It's an idea.
Yeah.
Basically, you know, you're going to donate crypto and then they do all the KYC. I was talking to her yesterday and she was at a conference for Classy. I'm sorry, I'm going to get into nonprofit stuff. Classy is a nonprofit portal where you would basically donate. They accept Venmo, PayPal, crypto, all the major credit cards. You can set up community fundraising pages, whatever. She was at this huge conference for nonprofits. And nonprofits, while people may think, oh, there's not a lot of money there, there's billions of dollars.
Oh,
and she was there and she said she was the only one who was there waving the crypto flag. So like it is still super early in almost every sector for crypto. Never mind even blockchain.
Wow.
And I just think for builders right now, it's also really tough. And that's just what I've heard because VCs are like kind of on the fence. They're like, ooh, well, if I have to go between a choice between AI and crypto, AI and crypto,
Yes.
this is easy. Which one's getting hunted down? Which
Yes.
one's not? Right. AI is still too early and too big that people don't even know how to wrap their minds around it, nor do they even know how to kind of govern it if they were. And I actually saw something recently. I think it was like the White House said you can only use ChatGPT. It was the only chat bot that they allow in the government or something. I forget exactly what it was, but that's kind of crazy because that says Google Bard buy, right? It says other products buy. So
yeah,
I think right now for builders, it's a tough time to get money, tough time to get ground traction, tough time to get buy-in, tough time to find people as well. If you have a coder and the coder's like, well, I could do Python for you back end, or I could do Python for this AI company. Like AI is taking talent, it's taking attention, it's taking funds. And I think crypto will obviously come out in a couple months and it will be okay. But right now is a really tough time.
Well, AI is also generating funds.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, crypto is too. Let's not forget crypto is too. Protocols are still like doing well, you know, like
protocols are doing well for themselves finally.
Mhm.
And that means finally paying people. That's not necessarily creating net new jobs. AI is creating net new jobs daily. Like
is it net though? Is it net positive or is it because I feel like maybe we're on the beginning of the curve where maybe it is creating jobs, but we know long term it's going to replace 30 to 40% of the workplace over the next like 5 to 10 years. So it's kind of like we can celebrate those wins, but yeah.
I mean, it will definitely impact. Go ahead, Aussie.
No, like, I mean, right now we're definitely on the net positive where jobs are increasing. But yes, 100% a lot of those jobs will disappear and they'll take even more jobs with them.
But I present for y'all's consideration, the pace at losing jobs will be slower than the pace at creating them. And here's why. You can't deny. So at this live event I did last night, one of the things I mentioned was that it used to take us about 3 months to create a year's worth of content. Now it takes us about an hour. I'm not exaggerating. And then it takes us a total of about 2 afternoons to get it posted and scheduled. And even that will go away. Like I just was messing with ChatGPT plugins yesterday. And sorry, I had to take mine off because I have a meeting after this and my hair was getting flat.
Yeah, mine too.
Get out of here with that. So, so I was messing with ChatGPT plugins, and I'll send you guys this link. You can add 2 particular plugins and give it a prompt, and then there's a third I'll give you. That you can put in the YouTube to this video, long form video, drop it in. It reads the transcript. From being a language learning model, it will infer, hey, this one section is about 15 seconds long. This would be a great clip. And then it clips it based on reading the transcript out of YouTube. In ChatGPT, it generates the videos. Then if you prompt it right, it'll give you a Midjourney prompt right there. And then it can connect to Midjourney and create the photorealistic generated photo right there. And I thought, this is nuts good, and I can just get it scheduled in Facebook or whatever it is. And then I saw you can connect a Zapier plugin.
Yep.
If you're not familiar with Zap, what'd you say?
Oh yeah. Once you can just connect Zapier, it's game over.
The world's open.
I'm really
That's-
excited for you to share these with me because I have the, I have the 3.5 and the 4, and I'm already playing with plugins. Really excited for you to share that with me, please.
Because you can type in, you can tell ChatGPT, write Aussie an email. And the Zapier cue for this is have AI make its best guess on who the email is. I don't have to tell them who the email is. If I say Aussie and it gets it wrong the first time, it'll respond and say, did you mean this email address? And I could say, no, use this email address. And from now on in the future, when I say Aussie, I mean this email. And it will just remember that. And you're now programming the AI where you can just send emails right from ChatGPT. And it's a simple screen. Now, we have this with like Siri and the Google Assistant and this sort of stuff. But if I'm just working with a single chat bar and that's my day's work, yes, it's leveraged. But here's the trick. I did this live video. And Roger, I want to get to your comments here. I did this live, not video, IRL event yesterday, and I had everyone raise their hand. How many people have opened ChatGPT? They all raised their hand. How many people used it more than once? Not a single person. They couldn't figure out that you programmed it. I did a demonstration right there about how I could tell it this and say, remember this from life, and then you shorthand the rest of the way. And they were like, it sounds like it's learning you. I was like, that's the point. It's learning you. And here's my point about the slowness of losing jobs. They won't have the budget to hire vendors. Vendors aren't going to charge less. I haven't seen a single vendor say, I can do a year's worth of content in 3 months, or I can do it in 2 afternoons and charge less. No, they're going to charge the same. There is no financial benefit to small business owners, and therefore they don't have anyone to fire. So I think we'll just get more output, but I think there will be a loss of jobs. I just think it'll be slower.
So you've made it a great point, and you're just talking about content, and we're content creators, all of us. Does this mean that we're going to have more and more content on the internet, and therefore being a content creator will actually be harder unless you're a quality content creator? Like, unless you are not leveraging AI and being AI, and going beyond AI to be a content creator?
Yes, I think so. I think with the added amount of ability that Grant's talking about, if you can, Aussie, you put out a video a week, I put out a podcast a week. I'm going to use AI to put out at least 2 or 3 podcasts a week eventually, plus other videos, especially with some of the plugins that Grant's talking about. And I've seen this flow. It looks awesome. I'm really excited to see this. And then Roger, if you're listening, you said you're driving. I'll call out your comments in a second. I want to finish this idea that Aussie has. I totally think so. I think it's going to be more saturated. And I also think the 3 of us, even you, Aussie, we're old heads, right? There are 14 and 15-year-olds that are going to start like Mr. Beast did. He started when he was like 12 or whatever, and he, built up. And by the time he's 21, he's a multimillionaire doing YouTube, right? I think there are going to be 14 to 18-year-olds right now. They're going to start crushing us because they're going to start using AI and building at scale. And they're just going to be talking about different things. And they have the jargon to just talk to the younger, more like TikTok, IG heavy community. I also think TikTok is going to be supplanted soon by something else because that's just like the way of the world. There's going to be something else by 2025 that's going to be different than TikTok. I don't know if it's decentralized. I don't know if it's Web3 native. I don't know what it is, but it's just kind of like, I do think it's going to be more difficult, which is all the more reason why building right now for the 3 of us is so fucking important. Because my theory is that in 3 years, right, people hopefully are going to like look to Not Crypto Bros for their weekly kind of like, what the hell's going on in crypto? What the hell's going on in NFTs? But if we build our brand right, we may not even need to be here. We may have other people that are on the show and we just own Not Crypto Bros as the IP, and other people come on and they use it as a platform to shill or do whatever they want to do or talk. It's kind of like a community bulletin board, right? And for more than blockchain, building on that idea, I know I want to build a brand so it's super strong. So in the future, I could even have AI, my voice, sharing my thoughts. It's just not me doing all the editing and all the production, but people trust the brand. I think building a brand right now could not be more important, whether it's a personal brand or a company brand.
I agree with that.
Because, like, for example, Nike, all of Nike's ads in 2 years less are all just going to be AI. But you don't care because you already have that relationship with Nike. You may even have some on your feet. You may even already wear their clothes. So I think making a brand, the brand is all about trust. And once you have people's trust, I don't think people care how you build the content, which is really going to be a change in how people do it. Because I think right now we're like, oh, people follow me because they love my story and they love seeing me and they love knowing how like my kids are growing up or whatever that. No. People just want whatever your product or service is. If it's info, then they want that. I don't think that they care, to be fair, where the genesis is after some point.
I think they will, though. So I might counter a few of these points from this regard.
Yeah, please.
I think it'll be harder for someone to start later.
It will be harder to start. Exactly. I want to agree with that. I think there's a window before AI really kicks in for content creators. And I don't even know when it is because AI is just, it's like a tsunami. It's getting bigger and bigger. It's compounding. But I do think once that window closes, that what Grant's probably going to build on right here, it's going to be nearly impossible to get in. And
it won't just be the volume. The volume of content is an issue. Like, to the point where I don't think we have the server space now. The exponentiality of the creation, I believe, is outpacing the server space. You're going to start seeing payment models come up, just like Elon gated the Twitter API so that you had a bunch of bot lords who suddenly had to pay $41,000 each. Suddenly they disincentivized spam bots, and that's a pretty brilliant economic incentive.
I mean, Reddit's doing the same thing.
Sure. And you're going to see this, though, where, so like right now, one of the workflows, Jarrett, was find a long form piece of inspirational content, drop it into one of these bots in ChatGPT. It can slice up to 100 different 15-second motivational clips. And it will overlay motivational quotes, and then you pump out 100 reels a week per burner account. And you're just building up a massive amount of following with what appears to be no ask. That way, if your personal accounts ever gets burned, you just change the marketing to yourself and you have a pre-made audience for motivational content, and you just start selling your stuff. There's a tsunami of content. But here's the deal. What we still have yet to do is truly pass the bullshit meter, what I call the bullshit meter. Our radar, our ability to see authenticity. So I believe humans are starting to go, oh, look at all this content. Oh, shit. And their vision is narrowing because they can't handle the volume. But I believe they will want to hear the story about your kids, as Jarrett was giving this example. If they stuck with you long enough, if you've been around long enough, and if they've stuck with your story from the get-go, you've been authentic, and if you are directly in the line of their personal story, meaning people look for affinity groups, right? Like Jarrett getting a Ute is on point. And even though I think the window for the public giving a damn about a Ute is like nominal, I believe anyone ever needing to know Uniswap, that already belongs in the Museum of Web3 history. Based on who's coming in the future, they will think of Coinbase and that's it, or Fidelity. That's it. Swaps? What swaps? Swaps are what we'll use to get arbitrage. It'll be an OG old head thing. And so this idea of him getting a Ute is right in line with his affinity group. In fact, so much so you bought it with a hoodie with brown skin. It was you. It felt like you. That's how targeted people will start searching the internet. This is why Reddit, I believe, has only been in its beta phase. When you look at Reddit visually, it's so generic. I believe each of those subreddits are going to get even more accentuated. Yeah. And so I believe people's internet experience will be, like we already talked about, crypto Twitter versus Twitter. I mentioned at this thing last night, we had a doula. You guys know what a doula is?
Oh, yeah.
A doula helps when someone gets pregnant.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I thought a doula. Like I was
thinking of an NFT.
Yeah. No. So this doula, they were natural birth doulas. I mentioned Twitter. They're like, ugh. And that you could tell where they stood on the politics just by that response alone. Yeah. And I was like, listen, I don't care how you feel about the politics. I go to crypto Twitter. I go to venture capital Twitter. I go to real estate Twitter. I find out exactly what's going on up to date. I'm willing to bet there's doula Twitter. Of course there is. I go look up doula Twitter, and that's your affinity group. And people will not even know about other corners. Go ahead, Jarrett or Aussie. You both had thoughts.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So my thought is that, and this is just my working theory about how I'm thinking about more than blockchain. It's also how I'm thinking about not crypto bros. Is that exact thing, Grant, that you talked about, that there is a window in which we have, and Roger, I see your comments. I'm going to get to them in a second here. We're kind of on a tiff.
We'll
I
get to them. We swear to God.
I swear, bro, we'll get next week. So I do think that there's a window. I think that there's going to be a tsunami. I do think a lot of it is noise, just like a lot of social media right now is noise. If you go on Instagram and you go to the magnifying glass and it's just going to show you basically the things that you're into, most of it is noise. There's just so many people that have made literally full careers, and they probably make good money doing gimmicks. It's just like going to interview people on the street and asking them ridiculous questions and giving them money, like whatever that is. I do think adding value, especially if it's something that's tied to financial value,
Yeah.
whether that's financial advice, whether that's how to invest in real estate, how to invest in crypto, how to save your
Yeah.
money, personal finance, that will always be great. And the great thing about that is those tenets really don't change. How we
agree.
get to
I'm
those,
already seeing that being oversaturated, though.
it is, but that's in English. What about the person speaking in Hindi that's doing it in Mumbai? What about the person speaking in Quechua, one of the biggest, South American indigenous languages? So there's languages, and then there's cultural context. And maybe you follow somebody because they're from my home country and they're doing this and they're showing me how to send money home. Like as Grant said, the levels of Reddit get deeper. But my point is that once you have your brand and it's established and you have a decent followership, I think then you can use AI to get away with murder to keep that brand going. And people won't care as long as you come in and you check in once a week to keep the lights on. And the reason why I say this is no one buys a Ford because of Henry Ford. No one buys an Apple because of Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
No one buys Nikes because of Phil Knight. Most people don't even know who those three people are. If you ask any 20-year-old who those three people are, they probably can't tell you. Maybe they'll get to Steve Jobs. Most people don't know Phil Knight. Most people definitely don't know Henry Ford. So my point is, once you extrapolate a brand, it builds the trust. It doesn't matter who founded it. It doesn't matter their story. Phil Knight's story is one of the coolest stories ever. I have Shoe Dog. I'll send it to either of you if you guys want it. It's a phenomenal book. Once that distance is created between the founder's story and the brand, because the brand has basically become bigger than the founder's story, that is where I'm trying to take more than blockchain. That is where we should be trying to take not crypto bros, because at that point we can use AI and we can leverage other people's time, I guess we'll call it OPT, to continue the brand forward. So I guess that's where I am.
I think, Aussie, I would agree. If I could just summarize, I agree. I think that it will be harder for content creators to be shit. It will be easier for content creators to be unique. And and when I say we are unique, I just mean that they find their voice or integrate their voice. We can use AI for the pre-production, the post-production. There will be those who create fake accounts, fake celebrities. The lift on those are much harder than people realize, and I don't believe sustainable. I could do this all day long. But what I couldn't do, and I could actually ideate new content. I could build on this. I could add value, I believe, by synthetic thinking all day long. And because it's not just synthesis, AI does synthesis very well. It's communicating it in a way that resonates with the hearer. And that's a very human trait, which I believe AI will still be many moons off from doing. So I think it's getting harder to be a rube and an amateur. But what it's not getting harder to do, what it's making easier is to put in your 10,000 hours. And then what it's making easier is to distribute that, and people's judgment. People will be filtering out, but this to me is a feature, not a bug. They'll be filtering out the people who are here. The quick what is it, the scam artists, the quick, what do they call them, the quick change specialists? You guys remember when people used to come up to a desk, someone who used to have a register, and you used to talk to them and be like, hey, could I get this for $10? And you go, yeah. And then you give them change, like, oh, I think you missed my change, I think you gave me $1, should have been $5. And no one thinks about money well, and so you give them a 5 spot back and they walk out, and they didn't steal the whole till. They got $4 more than they should have. It was only $4. We call these quick change artists. And so when I think about a lot of pseudo bullshit content, they're not here for 77 episodes. They're not here for hundreds of episodes. They're not here for hundreds of episodes. What are you on? What episode are you on?
Aussie's on 50, right?
I'm
Something
getting
like
some. Yeah, I'm on somewhere close to that now.
they're not here to look at low return rates and go, fuck it, I still need to show up on camera tomorrow and deliver something of value. To me, there's this idea of going pro in content creation, and that's when you show up, when you get the big goose egg of people showing up. And so I think actually it will accelerate the quick change artists. It'll accelerate the amateurs rolling out. And I'm down for that. I think it'll make it better. That's my summary. Jarrett, thought?
Yeah, I want to hop in and just shout out. I completely agree. You know, it's been actually great. I call it digital Darwinism, but I think it's great when people leave Web3 and NFTs. If they don't, if this totally isn't down to their core, and this isn't something that they do,
Yeah.
like you said, being professional. I mean, I think being professional or playing something seriously. I mean, I played college soccer. It wasn't professional at all, but there were so many days I didn't want to go to practice, but I
Yeah.
still went. And it's the days when you don't want to go to practice. When you go, those are the days that make you better on game day.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
And
we had rugby last night, and we don't have a game this weekend. It's the Canadian. We got Canada Day on Saturday, and so we've got the day off. But yesterday we put in the longest day of training that we've put in all
Yeah.
season, and
Feels good.
I hadn't been home since 6 a.m. I got home at midnight, and
Yeah.
because we put
buddy.
in a good 5 hours of training, and it felt great. And I know that because of it, I will be better at the next game day.
Yeah, and a
buddy.
lot of people just aren't ready for that, so it's okay.
Mhm.
Roger Williams says you have investors, corporations, developers, NFT marketing podcast. There's so many ecosystems, and he's talking about just when we were talking about Web3 and blockchain, and he said it's all about what is trending. This kind of builds on the idea we're just talking about. The masses love to chase the funds. Most don't understand the technology. Blockchain technology, once people understand the technology, has a huge, I think he wants to say upside. The
Yeah.
ledger is huge for data storage. He says the new generation doesn't like to watch whole videos. They only like highlights. Their attention span is so much shorter than our or my generation. And then finally he says Ford used to mean found on road dead.
Yeah.
I think that Roger's spot on, but I think that it's not even just our generation, or it's not just that younger generations. I think Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and Facebook, all of these big social media platforms, I think they actually change they change anyone's ability to watch longer video, because it's like, why would I watch a 7-minute video on how to make chocolate chip pancakes using bananas and vegan whatever when I could watch a 30-second one and get to the same conclusion?
Same
I think the
conclusion.
content is actually shaping the content and what the platforms are pushing is actually shaping our attention span more so than maybe what we want, because I think as humans, we evolve really quickly when it comes to how we engage with content. So I don't think it's like an older person, like an 80-year-old person's like, oh my God, I love watching a 20-minute YouTube on how to change a tire. When that 80-year-old person will just stumble across a YouTube short and they'll figure out how to change a tire in 45 seconds. Right? Like,
I think this is people getting in touch with what their true goals and desires.
sure.
I think the tsunami of content, like you're saying, literally, like I'll watch a YouTube video on like exactly what you're saying. Actually, we have a Subaru and I had to change a tire or change a headlight, and it was kind of difficult. And the 20-minute video was driving me batshit crazy. So I took the extra 2 minutes to find a 30-second montage. And I was like, okay, I get it. And I go, and I'm done. And I save that 20 minutes. And I think, is my attention span getting shit? Or is because I actually have a more efficient answer, I can then deprioritize those learnings and maximize my personal goals. I don't need to spend another 20 minutes learning. I can learn faster than that. And so I don't know if it's attention spans or if it's tolerance of horse shit.
Exactly.
I think it's also just the value of our time. We all value our time more, and therefore we're unwilling to waste, quote unquote, waste time watching longer
Sure.
content than we deem necessary. If we can watch something and learn how to do it in 30 seconds, we're not going to
Yeah.
watch the 20-minute video unless we think that there's more nuance. Like maybe if we're talking personal finance,
Sure.
You can, there's a 30-second video that gives you good kind of starting ground. You might then go watch the 20-minute video because they talk about how there's more nuance. And then you watch the 20-minute video to get the nuance because you're interested.
Sure.
But I think there's a greater value on time and the ability to dissect information and understand information quickly.
I think that's the dichotomy of modern society, or that's the idiosyncrasy of modern society. I think people do value their time more. At the same time, they waste more time than ever before in human history
I agree with that.
because we consume too much. When I was growing up as a kid, I had every day before school, I could watch 30 minutes of TV, like basically when I was eating breakfast. And then when I came home, I could only watch 30 minutes of TV, and I had a clipboard and I had to sign up. So I had to go into the newspaper. This sounds fucking crazy. Go into the newspaper and be like, oh, I want to watch DuckTales or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then be like 6 to 6:30, put my name. Right. So that way I wasn't watching a lot of TV. And now I probably spend 16 hours in front of the screen every day.
That was TV Guide.
No, it was just on the local newspaper had like what was going to be on TV because there were like 13 channels or whatever it was, even on basic cable. So, we've gone from that to now, part of my job is sitting on Twitter. Literally, that is part of my job. I'm connecting with people all the time on Twitter. I DM about 30 new people from Web3 on Twitter every week to talk about Mercy Core and stuff. So it's like we all spend 2 to 3 hours a day on social media, probably just consuming. And then at the same time, we're also like, oh my God, we have to absolutely protect our time. My time is worth gold. It's like, dude, we're all spending years of our lives doing dog shit. Roger says, I think it's attention span. I played basketball. The new generation likes to watch basketball highlights. You don't learn basketball watching basketball highlights. NBA basketball isn't the same as it used to be. Ooh, I don't know, Roger. I might disagree with you there. I think it's pretty fire. Roger, I will say what's happening with the NBA is that globalized world is finally picking up. The past 5 MVPs are not from the United States, even though we created the game. So I think it's more that it should become globalized, and the world plays basketball differently than the United States does. A lot more zone, less man-to-man, different passing. So anyways, I could go into that for a while, but.
Well, and I think that there is the young generation, I do believe that there's always a difference between the young generation and the generation in place. The new generation likes to watch basketball highlights. Listen, I grew up surfing. I love surfing. I could spend 8 hours in the salt water, not come out for a drop of water, and surf that entire time without a shirt and not get burnt. Like I am salty when it comes to surfing. Like I know how to roll. But when I watched surf videos had punk ska music in the background, and it was nothing but highlights. And there was a distance or a difference between watching a full game. I would never sit and watch someone else's full session. I would watch their highlights. I want to watch them do that awesome sick drop in. I want to watch them do that awesome bad snap because I want inspiration for when I want to spend more time on the court. I do think I agree with the statement. There's an attention span issue with the new generation. I do agree with that, especially as it comes to learning new skills. But to me, it's for me, it's a disconnected thought from watching highlight reels versus actually wanting to play the game. But I do agree with you. You don't learn basketball by watching highlights. You don't learn basketball by watching full games either.
You learn by doing.
You learn basketball by getting on the fucking court and someone throwing you a ball till you break your nose, which I've done twice, once with a basketball, 2 times with a football. That's why I got this schnoz. You learn something. You learn something when you play the game. For sure. That's my 2 cents on that anyway. I don't know. No, you don't know, Aussie?
I'm just having fun. I'm just having fun here.
Yeah. So what's the plan the rest of the day, boys? It's the top of the hour. It's going to be a crazy day. Are we expecting, let's get into DGen, not financial advice. What are you expecting to Bitcoin to end with this rejection of the ETFs?
30.
I'm looking for like 28.5 probably.
28.5. That's not
a huge drop, but we've been sitting. I think we're range bound for. My theory is we're range bound for the rest of the summer at the very least. I like we're in the summer at this point,
Mhm.
and yeah, we've pushed up to about 31 and a half kind of thing. But my theory is we're range bound all summer, so I'm thinking maybe as low as 25, but probably sitting between 28 and a half and 31 and a half.
All right. All right. Jarrett, what shenanigans are you going to get into with your new Ute community, bro?
I'm gonna join the Discord, and there's a bunch of other stuff I can join if I go on Y00ts, like their website, and they have a bunch of like sticker packs and all this like onboarding stuff. So I'll dive into that eventually. And I'm excited for you to send over that flow on ChatGPT, because I just think that's
Yeah.
super powerful for content creators and small businesses and
Yeah.
anyone that's creating a brand. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And there's ideas coming up all the time with AI. I mean, like, one of my brother, who I've mentioned several times on the show, he countered that database querying on blockchain is archaically slow because you have to validate at every block.
Mhm.
So if you want to gather the basketball stats on basketball stats chain, and you need to aggregate what the basketball stats for the LA Lakers were for the last 10 seasons, but all that information spread across multiple blocks, you have to validate as you access each block. And you'd pull up basically what that amounts to is you pull up a query and you'd Google that information, and you'd sit there for moments and moments, and you'd eventually get an immutable, permissionless amount of information that's reliably accurate, but you'd sit there staring at your watch. And then the computing power for that is even higher, and your wallet's being touched every single time. Like, is this actually you? Do you actually have access to this information? And even though each one of those packets is small, it's inefficient, And I don't know, how did I even get on that?
I don't know.
I have no clue where you got there.
I lost my thread. I apologize. All right. What else, guys? Come check us out next.
Come check us out
Friday.
next Friday,
We're
because next
taking
Tuesday
off.
Oh.
We're taking Tuesday.
yeah
For Canadian Day,
is America Day.
celebrating Canadian Day and America Day.
It's Canada Day, guys. Canada Day.
I'll tell you the story how I ended up in Canada on Canada Day and didn't know. I just thought everyone was super enthusiastic about being Canadian. So we'll tell you that story some other day. So guys, check us out next Friday, not next Tuesday. We're going to be American-centric for a minute and just not do our show this coming Tuesday, but we'll be back on. We appreciate you guys. And thank you, Roger, for stopping by. And have a great day, everybody.